There. Good morning, Al.
Can you hear us now, people?
Testing. Test.
Oh.
Hey, it looks like we're.
You don't know.
Okay.
The reboot fix it up.
All right, so I will start over.
Okay.
I'm gonna again call this meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners for April 14th, 2025 to order. And as we do every morning, we'll start with up to 25 minutes now of public comment. There were a few hands in the room and I did make a call out. Are there folks with us online who would like to make a comment? I see a couple of hands going up. So we'll start in the room and then we'll go online. We'll start with Diane McDade and then Maggie. Okay. 3 minutes.
Okay, good morning, commissioners. Jefferson, I'm Diane McDade, resident of Port Johnson and president of the Jeffco Aquatic Coalition. We at JAC are gratified by the results of the countywide survey that we shared with you last week, which reveals strong support for a new aquatic center located in Port Hadlock. A facility located in Port Hadlock will provide numerous community benefits. Because of that, we are eager to move the project forward. In our board meeting last Thursday evening, we voted to make 2 requests of you at the BOCC. The first is we would ask that you move forward with a vote on formation of a Jefferson County PFD once sufficient funds have been raised to assure execution of a strong, solid work plan. JAC, working in concert with you, will set a fundraising target sufficient to support that work plan and the administrative and operating costs associated with the PFD. We'll return to the BOCC when sufficient funds have been raised to ensure the successful implementation. Building an aquatic center demands a solid financial plan, and we at JAC take seriously the need for the PFD to be set up for success right from the start. In this era of constrained federal and state funding, with economic uncertainties facing many individuals and communities, we recognize that a large percentage of private funding is needed for PFD formation, which is why we have already raised $125,000 for this effort. Second ask is that we would suggest that the commissioners support a formation of a citizen-led community stakeholder engagement to begin now. We propose that interested citizens and representatives from the Chimacum School District, the Jefferson County Library, Jefferson Transit, and neighborhood leaders in the tri-area begin meeting now to discuss preliminary site plans. The purpose of this engagement would be to focus on collaboration and future development at the 10-acre Chimacums Creek Primary School parcel, working on egress, pedestrian, bike, auto traffic, and the site plan. While JAC fully supports the creation of a PFD as the eventual governmental entity to help realize our goals for a future aquatic center, we also recognize that a great deal of valuable work takes place when citizens and stakeholders work together in a cooperative fashion. So we would like to continue to raise money for the PFD and at the same time work together with community stakeholders to get started developing the preliminary site design for the campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Maggie. And then anyone else in the room? Okay, we'll go to you, Jane, next.
Okay, so the men's bathrooms broke down this weekend in the 209A Monroe Street shelter. And it turns out that Bayside hired a very poorly rated subcontractor to run the 209A Monroe Street shelter. It has a very poor rating with the Anti-Defamation League and is a repeat offender. There was more bullying of consumers in the shelter. It seems that people who are less disabled receive less bullying. People who are more disabled receive hostility and bullying, especially if they're from a group of, if they're female, if they're LGBTQ. A consumer was kicked out yesterday. The consumer had a very severe head injury. Everyone knew the consumer before the head injury, and when they came back with this very severe head injury, they were unable to organize themselves and complete the most basic morning routine daily tasks. Think like all three stooges at once, unable, just completely unable. They were criminalized and kicked out, and their stuff was thrown outside, and they were told if they came, there's a sign on it saying if they come back and get it, they'll be, the police will be called. This person will not make it outside. They'll probably die out there. This person, this consumer, needed help, somebody to call an agency, the agency that had them before, whether it was Jefferson Healthcare or behavioral health, to get him some help. Because he'll die out there. So, this is, something where if I were to make an analogy, it would be like if the YMCA hired untrained lifeguards that didn't know how to swim to watch the kids in the pool. Now, there's culpability there because the YMCA is in the business of, swimming pools and people being in swimming pools. So they should know their business. They should be prudent. They should be objectively reasonable about how they deal
That's
with
3
things.
minutes, Maggie.
And they are not. And so you've got this stigma-free Jefferson County. This is what you need to take to your subcontractor. They're
That's 3
untrained.
minutes.
They need training.
Thank you.
Okay,
Should we leave that?
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Jane.
Good morning. My name is Jane Armstrong. I live in Port Townsend and I'm on the JAC Board of Directors. First, I want to thank you for the effort with the 2 public utilities in Mason County and here in Jefferson County, and all of the volunteers and community members who responded to the survey. The survey was a very current reflection of the sentiment in our county. And I remind us that that sentiment is the last 30 days. It's not even been 2 weeks since that survey closed in a time of uncertainty. And yet the survey shows a strong public interest and desire to know more about what an aquatic center located in Central County can be. Over 50% of the responders had comments, which shows the interest in public engagement going forward. And interest, whether it is to know more, to look at the cost constraints, to look at how it can operate. I have been a strong supporter of this movement as it's been moving forward and as the conversation has enriched the definition of where and how this could be. I'm reminded that it's a great equalizer. When I volunteered in Seattle at a Women and Children's Center, one of the things we did was take children out to a neighborhood public pool. And the children in that setting had such a life and vibrancy from the difficult environment they were in. They were equal with everyone else. I see the same thing at Mountain View, whether a person comes in with walking sticks, limping, looking at surgery, recovering from surgery, learning to swim. People get in the pool and the conversations start. There's a wonderful free film on Eventive called Below the Surface, 20 minutes documentary of how community is built in a public setting with a public pool and how people relate and build that community. And I've experienced that in every community I've lived in, whether I was a youth, a student, an adult, and now a senior. If you want to know how to get through knee and back and hip injuries, just ask a question in the pool. And someone might bring you a meal and a ride as well. It's non-weight bearing. It works in all seasons, in rain, in sun, in wind. And so I encourage you to keep it going. It's affordable, Suits are available at the Goodwill. Let's keep the conversation. Let's figure out how to make it work now. And let's do it as a countywide, publicly available facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Kendra Mirasol. I'm a new resident of Port Townsend. I moved here in October. I'm a retired business owner and then have lived and worked globally, moved to Seattle to lead a nonprofit. And now my partner and I have found a wonderful place to continue our lives. One of the key factors of coming here was to be surrounded by pool. My hair is typically wet pretty much half the day. And when I went to the YMCA to do my lap swimming, I quickly learned that they need lifeguards and instructors. And so to get involved in the community, that's exactly what I did. So in December, I finished my lifeguard training and have been working ever since, and met with Keith Williams, our new director, whom I'm very impressed with. He is all about community. Met with Wendy Barrett, the CEO of YMCA, met with Diane McDade, all sorts of citizens who have been involved. My goal was really to continue to be a lifeguard or a swim instructor. And so I was certified in that a couple of weeks ago. I have had the privilege to teach our elementary school students from kindergarten through 3rd grade safety around water. That is incredibly critical. So every day that I'm at the pool, I am thanked by the lap swimmers that come in early, then the deep water aerobics, then the shallow water aerobics people, most of whom are seniors. I feel incredibly connected to this community as a result. Again, I can't tell you how many times I'm thanked every day that I am either instructing or guarding. I appreciate your attention to this matter. I feel like it's very critical to continue the commitment to provide this safety aspect as well as community and health and wellness aspect. I felt good that you made this decision about selecting Port Hadlock. I feel good about you connecting with Jack, Jefferson Aquatic, with the survey. I felt the survey was very well designed and very well analyzed and very well presented. And I just encourage you to continue to take the matter very seriously, ensure that there is clear accountability with the process and constant communication with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra. Anyone else in the room wishing to make public comment today? Most of you are my MRC friends, so I know what you're here for.
Proclamation.
Okay, so we will go online and we'll start with Ed Bowen. And then Jean, just can bring everyone over, I guess, and we'll go down the list. Jean, Ed, Jean Cray, Mary Jane.
You called on Ed first.
Yep. Ed, once you get unmuted, you'll have 3 minutes for comment.
Morning, Commissioners. Ed Bowen, West Jefferson. So South Shore Road, and now today, hopefully you'll report that we've begun the work on Upper Ho Road. I think today was the start of the work there. In regards to the South Shore, if the word hasn't come across your desk, the Park Service officially put out public notice on the 11th that the temporary bridge, that's the little bridge that goes over the culvert that allows the main bridge across the canal to be accessible, has been put in place and the Jersey barriers have been removed. So now we do have an interconnect between the Upper South Shore Road, and the better news is that road is clear all the way through Graves Creek, all the way to the trailhead to the Enchanted Valley. That's great news for our visiting public. We do have, I think you heard a comment last week about the blind corners on the North Shore Road. Hopefully the park is going to look at putting some temporary signs in there. But I did put notice out to the Public Works Department that they need to make sure they have a sign on the upstream side of the washout that the road is closed, because now we'll have public backtracking down the South Shore Road. And the park said they would send the ranger over there to check that, but put that on their laundry list. The only thing I have on the agenda I need really for you all to think about is what's the next step for the South Shore Road? Right now, I'm still waiting from your emergency management department a reading of the resolution, the emergency declaration, as to really, does it apply? And does that hold up any future funding? And then lastly on this, you know, I noticed in the schedule of events this week for you commissioners, Commissioner Brotherton, you have some type of a community discussion meeting going on later in the week. Are we going to get that out here in West Jefferson? I don't recall us having a Jefferson meeting out here for a long time. Maybe it's time for that. And I'm going to suggest to you that maybe we get a joint commissioner meeting down in the Lake Quinault area between Grace Harbor commissioners and the people of Jefferson County in the Lake Quinault area, and have a meeting down there instead of where we've had them in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
October 27th.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. And as we always do, we'll respond to all the public comments once we receive them all. So we'll go on to Jean Ball.
Good morning. There are 3 points I'd like to make this morning. First, I am also hoping for an update on the South Shore Quinault and Ho washouts. I saw something about the Ho on the agenda, but I haven't heard much about the South Shore Quinault for a while. Second, the PFD hearing was pulled from the agenda, thankfully. The lack of grant funding is protecting the county from a self-inflicted wound. This singular driving objective to act upon misleading and biased data would have resulted in a failure at the ballot box. We were repeatedly promised properly weighted data according to geographical distribution, which is not at all what we've been provided. Voters are not stupid. Using this ridiculous narrative from the skewed survey results and the attempt to substantiate the absurd claim that 61.5% of the people would support a county-wide tax hike is insulting. Treating people like they are too dumb to understand the attempt to force-feed the objectives of a special interest group has been a real eye-opener for me to observe. If we want public pools, maybe the commissioner should support the resort development in Brennan, because those 2 pools will be open to the public and constructed without taxpayer dollars. Thirdly, on the resort, the question you should be asking is, why isn't it working? I know you think you know the answer to that enduring question, but that's because you're not being told the truth. The real answer is out here. I hope you search for it outside of your silo. And no, saying I thought things were better now is not sufficient or at all accurate. I encourage you to ask the question, why isn't it working? And to ask it from sources you are currently dismissing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Craig, you have 3 minutes for public comment. You'll need to unmute. Like you're still unmuted.
Can you
There
hear
you
me
go.
now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you very much. My name's Craig Henry. I've been a local here now for about 10 years. I have gone on a journey that sounds like Kendra spoke earlier has just started. I joined the community, tried to get involved with different groups. The one that stuck really was the pool. So I've been a patron of the pool in Port Townsend for about 10 years. I've been a lifeguard at the pool off and on for about 10 years. So I've had a lot of opportunity to meet lots of people in the community, and it's absolutely clear that our community needs and wants a community aquatic center. So I absolutely want to voice my support for that. I was also on the task force last year. And I just want to remind folks that about 6 months ago, we provided a report after the earlier study done in Port Townsend, where we have also affirmed the need for a pool and the desire of the community to have a pool. And the key recommendation out of that group, at least one of them was to create a PFD to continue the momentum and keep us going forward. It's now been over 6 months since we spoke and close to a year now from the original Healthier Together study. We're losing momentum the longer we keep delaying. The logical next step is to create a PFD, to go out and have these meetings. If it's possible to do that without the PFD, with the county commissioners to be directly involved with creating these community meetings and working with the JAC, I guess that's a step we could use to fill in. But I don't really at this point understand why we don't take the step now to create the PFD so we have an ongoing body to continuing this effort. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments, Cray. And now we'll go on to Mary Jane.
Hi, it's actually Mary Janelle. Thank you.
Oh, Janelle. Okay, sorry,
That's
Mary
all right.
Janelle.
That's all right. I'm a recent resident of Port Townsend. My spouse and I moved here in 22, and the pool has been a central feature of our connection to the community. And I am a lifelong swimmer. My children learned to swim in YMCA pools. Public pools promote physical fitness, provide safe and accessible recreation, foster social connections, and support local economies. Swimming pools provide a safe and accessible environment for people of all ages and abilities to enjoy recreational activities and preserve their lives, living in a area surrounded by water. They are particularly important for children who can learn to swim and develop water safety skills that can save their lives. Community pools also provide a space for families to spend quality time together and for seniors to engage in low impact and therapeutic exercise and social activities. I didn't mention, but I'm on the board of JAC, and I also was a member of the survey subcommittee and read every final comment submitted more than once, and I'm very proud of the work of the survey committee. Not only did they create a strong survey, but they got that work done in very short order. So I just want to encourage the county commissioners to support Diane's proposal. It makes a lot of sense. And best of all, it once again brings people of diverse work, perspectives, and interests together to help realize this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Janelle. We'll go to Denise and then Tom Tiersch.
Good morning, commissioners and folks that are trying to make the community a better place. I appreciate all of this. My name is Denise Shepard. I represent Newt Crossing, which is a co-housing group that is trying to build new affordable housing, which I know all of us are interested in doing in Port Townsend. Currently, I do not live in Port Townsend because I'm trying to build my own little tiny 600 square foot house in Newt Crossing. And I'm here representing our small, affordable, multi-generational co-housing project that is in Jefferson County. It'll be the first one, by the way. We are hoping for 8 homes with a shared infrastructure. Therefore, it'll be light on the land and light on people having big on people having connections with one another as we, share rides into town or along the bike path, which is very close to where our land is. right now, we're very aware of the fact that delays do drive the costs up. Those of us, I'm personally putting a lot of money into the work we need to do to get ready to build the houses, with all local people that we're hiring to do that work, by the way. We're very much into how we do things and doing it with care for the people that already live here. What we are doing, we're hoping the county can find enough flexibility in the PRRD rule to make this happen, and we need your help with that. We're offering an amendment to the PRRD rule regarding non-conforming lots, and this would allow this project that meets all your hopes and dreams to go forward. I'm going to continue to be brief, but I'm just going to mention some of the very wonderful things co-housing does. Ours is affordable. It's multi-generational. We have people from the age of, let's see, 95. How old is she? 94 or 95, and all the way down to, I think the youngest is 9 years old. So it's multi-generational. It's really innovative. We're light on the land. We also share our infrastructure. We have a community house, so that way we all don't need 2 and 3 bedroom single family homes to host people when they want to come and visit us. There's much less impact in the land. We retain trees. We're in a forested area. It's ecologically beneficial, energy efficient, less impervious surfaces, and the clustered homes help us to eliminate sprawl. So,
That's 3
we-
3 minutes, Denise.
okay, thank you, Heidi. Thank you all, and appreciate you listening. Take care.
Thanks so much. Hope you have room for me out there. Okay, and then, unless there's anyone else with us in the room who wants to make a public comment or online,
Mr. Tiersch.
we'll finish with Mr. Tiersch, Tom Tiersch.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for extending slightly the public comment period, a couple of minutes. Audio problems, eh? Too bad. Glad you got them fixed. So a whole bunch of people showed up this morning to talk about the PFD, which of course the hearing has been canceled. What caught my attention about that is obviously a bunch of people are interested and wanted to be heard at a hearing. The hearing had been noticed, back in March to occur today, but it's been canceled now. So I was curious as to which meeting of your county commissioners, at which meeting did you make that decision? Did you vote to cancel the meeting? Because, when you notice a meeting, you have to also notice the cancellation under OPMA. And so that's a concern. I mean, I saw that it was noticed on your website. Commissioner Eisenhower, in fact, pointed that out to me in an email. Thank you. But it wasn't in the PT Leader, which is the newspaper of record, and they have to be notified of any such things because they're on file as having requested such notices. So a whole lot of people may not have heard about this meeting or the hearing being canceled today, and that's unfortunate. So yeah, I guess I just have those questions. When did you decide to cancel it, and why didn't you properly notice it? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So anyone else? Last call for public comment here. Feel like a bartender. Last call. Okay. Who would like to start with response this morning? Colleagues, friends and colleagues.
I can jump in. Try to kind of cluster some things together. So in also just hearing, we all heard last minute, I'll rely on maybe a notice comment about Mr. Tiersch's questions. But I have to say about Jefferson or Jeffco Aquatic Coalition and canceling the hearing and kind of taking a different tack. I feel relieved and like this is gonna allow us the time to properly kind of move this process forward with the kind of input that we need. And I really appreciate the way that you have described this and the plan that you're bringing forward. It's very well thought out, and I look forward to seeing how it goes forward. So thank you for, I think there's been a lot of comments about bias, and I think this really shows a very level head and a real willingness to absolutely make sure we have the right plan and that we've taken everybody's input into consideration. So I appreciate the plan that you're putting forward and look forward to seeing where it goes next. So thanks for taking all the time to represent that well. And Ms. Mitchell, my first question for you when you bring comments about the 209A, the Jefferson County Emergency Shelter at the American Legion, my very first question often is, have you talked to the operator? So we'll follow up. I know both Commissioners Brotherton and I, who sit on the Housing Fund Board, that's often our first question, is we want to go right to the operator and hear their input, how they're responding. And so that's what we'll do next about the ones you brought forward now. And I look forward to hearing their perspective on it. And what I always want to do is foster a dialogue about the issues that you bring forward and make sure that we can support solutions. So thank you for bringing it forward. We'll do that with this one as we have with others, and hope that we see good response like we have in the past. So we'll do that. I don't have a whole lot of feedback about the roads right now, except just a question about how we can continue to bring forward updates on South Shore. So maybe we need to talk about that, and you may have either of you may have more information to provide to Mr. Bowen, except I have to say to Mr. Bowen, I often really appreciate you and others who are out there bringing information to us, and sort of the day-to-day updates that you're bringing to, or sort of week-to-week updates that you're bringing to these meetings. I find those to be of incredible value, I think, for our community. And so I really appreciate the information you're bringing forward as well. And just the question of continually putting South Shore on the forefront, because it's easy to move on to addressing other things. I think the only other comment that two other quick things. One to Ms. Shepherd. I have been following the Newt Crossing project for quite some time with a lot of interest in affordable housing. So I'm really thrilled to see you here and reporting on Newt Crossing and the progress. So I don't know about the PRRD rule. And so I will absolutely now go study it and try to understand your question, and we'll follow up on that. Look forward to further conversation. I'm excited to hear what you're doing there. And I guess the other last question that or sort of comment I have in general to those who've been talking about the pool is, I'm really thrilled to hear the focus on community building that happens in public pools. That I think hasn't been as much of the conversation so far. And I think that's such an exciting conversation to have, and to really find ways to bring community efforts to that project in a way that kind of lifts up that community building opportunity that we have. So I'm thrilled to hear it. I'm hearing it more and more in the discussion, and I think it's a big, exciting part of what could happen with a project like that. So that's all I got right now. Thanks, Heather.
All right, I could add on to that. I agree with everything you said, and I also appreciated the kind of the focus on the community building aspect of pools that many of the public comments we received today had. To Mr. Tiers's question, it was really Jack that brought up canceling the hearing. In response to the lack of getting the state money that we requested for design funds, we, really ended up with, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but a little bit of money that they had raised and the best way to move this project forward. And it kind of feels if we had, gone through the PFD process, kind of to Craig's point, we would have had like a plant that had grown too high and wasn't strong enough. So building the foundation seems really appropriate. I would definitely take issue with the allegations that it was a biased survey. I've seen a lot of surveys done and this one was exceptionally executed, and with nearly 18% of the Jefferson County residents counted, that we did get over 60% of the people said they would be willing to entertain a sales tax to get this community asset built and really raise the social floor. So I'm committed to continuing the work on the aquatic recreation facility. I talked to the superintendent of the Chimacum School District, as well as the interim director of the Jefferson County Library. They're all very interested in this work group that Diane is talking about. And I think that, with the money that they've raised, we can continue to manifest the site design that will benefit the Chimacum School District, the general area of placemaking and our new UGA. I actually have an article, op-ed in the Leader coming out this week. We did notify the Leader that the hearing was canceled. I had to rewrite that article several times as the conditions kept changing around this, as we are looking to, I would normally say pivot, but I think I will take Scott Mock's term pirouette to go to the appropriate course. I think this is not one of losing momentum, but figuring out how can we harness that momentum and keep moving forward. And I think I would be excited to serve the commissioners on that board and to bring back a hearing, which is again beyond we don't have to have a hearing to form a PFD. It's an abundance of transparency to have that hearing. I think we should absolutely commit to that when we have a funding plan. I think one of us, and it doesn't have to be me, but one of us participating in this work group will really inform that process of what's the budget that is appropriate to move it forward. We know you have design funds. We know that it's 60K or 120K, depending on the election that you're going to, whether it's special or regular election. So we've got a lot of the numbers kind of figured out, but with the funds, the private funds that Jack has raised, we can get that site design to a place where it's really understandable in a way that it isn't quite yet for some people. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. This is, to me, a little bit of kung fu and just kind of moving forward with continue our momentum. So I'm really excited about it. I would throw my full-throated support behind that plan. Yeah, I think that's enough on the pool, but maybe we should find some time to talk about what the schedule is and what that landscape looks like a little later in the day.
Yeah, and I just to add, I don't understand Ms. Ball's question about, I don't understand, Jean, where you're coming up with the question about the 61.5%, why you're questioning that. So just so you know, I want to look back to the survey, and I wouldn't mind having a conversation with you about why you're questioning that, so we can kind of fully understand that concern and either put it to rest or explore it further. It's a good question, but I'm not sure where you're coming from on it. And so I'd like to just explore it a little further if you're willing. So just say that. And I also, so what happens if this decision was made, the question from Jeffco Aquatic Coalition to cancel this, or the suggestion to cancel it, comes after, just a few days before the end of the weekend, right? Or Friday is when I saw it. So we don't have time to put it, there is no leader coming out between Friday and Monday. So how do we fulfill the notice concern? Just the only option is to put it on the website, right?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
It was on my day off, and legal had notified us the hearing will be canceled.
Right.
So I reached out to Mallory at the Leader and let her know that it had been canceled, because previously I had told her the information about the hearing. So I just followed up with her and said, is now canceled. And then, we put it on our website. So
We put it on our website. Did they put it on theirs when you let her know, or you were just
They're-
letting her know?
They're not
'Cause-
obligated to, but
Okay.
we do have to provide them notice. So we believe that we did that.
Yeah, so you told them, which is our obligation. They don't have any obligation to post it, and there's really no time between now, the Friday and the Monday, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so.
I still want to address how much time in advance we all have about these Monday meetings, but that's a whole nother thing. I
It's
want.
a
to forward
fast
later.
moving conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things are, I honestly still thought we were having a workshop this afternoon to kind of go over
I
the
thought so too,
details
yeah,
until I looked at the packet on Sunday. So-
exactly.
So, yes, sometimes
It's
these things move fast,
Yeah.
even for us. I think the conversation about the architecture of the PFD, I mean, we've been through a lot of process to get to the point that a PFD is the appropriate
Yeah.
public arm of this.
Right.
And it's just, right now, it's dependent on funds that we don't have. So, it would use all of its money just to exist. Now, I'm taking lines from my op-ed, so I don't want to say anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good direction to head.
Great.
Sorry to jump in.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Maggie, I agree 100% with Heather, send an email of these issues. I have a meeting with the operations, with our internal team and operations at the operator at the shelter. It's hard to respond to these things when I'm just hearing one side of an issue, which always are complex and nuanced, but shoot me an email and I will bring it up tomorrow, to Mr. Bowen. I did not know that they had put in the temporary bridge. That's great to know that it's there's connection around, and I think getting a public works update for next week would be probably appropriate. I think we're still looking, at getting that South Shore Road. I think it is under the bomb cyclone emergency now, so now it's just a
That's
matter of looking for funds, and they have, I believe, started working, all the contracts are assigned at least for the Upper Hoe Road, though I think there was another week or so before they were gonna start, I thought, but I don't have absolute
I have an
up-to-date.
update, but I'm
Okay,
waiting for you guys'.
okay, and again, appreciate everyone really pushing the community aspect of pools. And, to Denise, I'm not really as familiar with New Crossing, and, I feel like I don't understand what your actual ask was. You talked about, something with the PRRD, planned rural residential development.
Piece of land they have.
Well, I would love to know if you could email us at jeffpocc@co.jefferson.wa.us. Let us know what is the issue with the PRRD rules that you have.
Yeah, she said she's proposing a revision,
Okay,
so I look forward to seeing what that is. I haven't seen it yet either.
Yeah.
So, sounds.
I look forward to
Offering an
seeing it.
amendment was what she said.
Okay, well, I look forward to that, and I'll stop there.
Okay, so, couple of folks in public comment mentioned cancellation of the hearing today. It's not cancellation of the pool. I just want to make that clear. I kind of bristled at the people trying to use the word cancel with a lot of bravado. We are fully moving forward with, exploring the pool in mid-county. And the decision to cancel the hearing today came up because we got word that we did not receive the local project funding that we had requested. And in a conversation with both Jack and our prosecuting attorney's office, it felt like we needed time to come up with Plan B, or, the next plan that we're gonna develop for the pool. And, I have seen this community personally rise to many occasions in the past, and I know there's legions of interest in this issue, in this facility for our community. And I feel like we were elected to represent our community, and to provide opportunities like this, and I think we are going to lean in on how we get down the road with an aquatic center. So, I mean, that's where I'm at, and I am chair of the board, and I did make the decision not to have the hearing today based on input from the internal and external partners. And I think it's the right decision, and we need to reschedule our workshop on this matter and dig into the path ahead. But it would have been a waste of everybody's time if we'd continued that conversation today, and we need to do it in a stepwise way.
Okay.
So, and we do not often have the luxury of being able to talk to each other or have the luxury of time to coordinate with our media. And so I hear you, Mr. Tiersch, in terms of the requirement, and we did do our best to notify the community of the cancellation of this hearing. But I apologize that we didn't have the time to get it out with however many days' notice we would have needed. Carolyn can correct me as she does.
Yeah, and Sir Tom is up to date on all the laws.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that we provided proper notification to the paper of record, as we did so on Thursday or Friday of last week. So-
As soon as we knew,
Yeah. I know.
as soon as we knew,
And
yeah.
we only need to give 24-hour notice, is that right?
No, I mean, for cancellation, no, there's not a 24-hour requirement.
There's
no.
not even a requirement of that for cancellation. Got it.
Because sometimes we won't know until, like, if we have to cancel a meeting.
Yep.
Sometimes it's right the minute of, you know.
Okay, so it's not the same as noticing a meeting. Cancellation is different.
So it's a little different.
Easier to destroy. Okay, thank you.
So then, on the West End roads, I do have a little bit of new information or information that hasn't been shared this morning, that the contract you'll see on consent today for the upper, Hoe Road repair. And the work is starting today, according to
Excellent.
Monty, so, and it will take about a month to complete that repair, as we've been saying.
Yeah, they're right.
Far
on
and
track.
wide, yeah, they're on track, so.
It's
In
amazing.
terms of the South Shore Lake Quinault, there's no progress at all on that in terms of a pathway to a repair. And it appears that it's again, a game of hot potato between WashDOT and the federal FHWA program. Even though the bomb cyclone did get extended to include Jefferson County. So I think it just is another instance of us having to work harder at making those two non-local agencies, the state and federal agency, communicate with each other. And it should be eligible for FHWA funding for that repair. But according to Monty this morning, that's not the pathway right now.
And were you gonna share the date of the West End community conversation?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's right.
yeah, so we did get a confirmed list of our community outreach meetings with all of our colleagues, the elected officials and department directors, and we will be at the Hoe Tribal Chambers on October 22nd at 6 p.m. for a community outreach meeting. And we have, I think, 7 other community outreach meetings, which we will get out to the media
Yeah, that's.
and
this
on
week.
our website this week.
Yeah,
So
we're working on that.
the first one is not until June 24th, so we have plenty of time to notice people about those.
Facebook post is gonna be lovely.
And I will say the meeting that Ed mentioned on my calendar is this Thursday, the 17th, at the Quilcene Community Center to talk to, it's another of the data and needs assessment outreach meetings from the Housing Fund Board. We're trying to talk to people that have housing instability or are homeless about what that unique rural housing instability is like. And there's free pizza, so come down from 6 and 7:30 at the Quilcene Community Center to talk about housing instability.
Those are great meetings and a lot of good public input.
And I would just say to Denise about the Newt Crossing project, it is Newt Crossing. And I heard about that project first at the Connectivity Summit. It sounds like a really exciting development. And I think these kinds of developments that are going light on the land and really leaning into community are ones where we should lean into and try and figure out how we can
Encourage.
make our regulations encourage or allow for them. So Denise, if you would send us all an email just to Jeff BOCC with the details of your project, that would be great. And I know it's in my district and I'm happy to help. And I'm almost not joking that I love a parcel out there, but I've got my own project I'm trying to cook. So anyway, let's see. So we do have a hearing on the consent agenda, so we'll have to do consent quickly so that staff can get that hearing notice out.
Yeah.
With time, and then we will do our proclamation. And then we'll have our MRC update. So sorry, colleagues, you're sitting in the room with us a little longer than maybe you anticipated, but it's great to have you here.
If you just wanted to address items 1 and 2, you can address the remaining later if you wish, but the first 2 are together.
I don't have much on consent agenda.
Yeah, let's
so
just
we
do
could
consent.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
unless-
I'll just really quickly wish I could go for some of those surplus vehicles. There's some
I know.
nice new vehicles
I
that
saw.
they're like, geez, a 2020
I
Explorer.
know, I saw those, I'm like, wait a second, these are better than my cars.
I know.
I'm not, I've got my first new car ever,
Mhm.
but I was like, I saw these vehicles, I'm like,
Yeah. we
so
can't-
check
we
it out,
can't,
community, there are
We
some
can't,
good,
oh, bummer.
No.
there are some great vehicles being surplus by the county, well,
I know, I
great,
get a new
great to the
car,
girl who
actually.
grew up in a 1965 Valiant station wagon, so, yeah.
Cool, I have a couple of just, mostly, yeah, this was, no concerns about, except, express a little bit of gratitude and a little bit of hope. Gratitude certainly for staff who worked really hard and really quickly this week to move forward on the fairgrounds, amendment to the agreement, and that was to make fast use of some grant dollars that they
May 31st
received.
they're
Yeah,
going,
May
yeah.
31st, they need to spend some dollars to make a change to the horse stalls out at the fairgrounds, which will be there and ready for Jefferson County Fair. And so just our acting administrator, while Mark was away, was Monty Reinders, and he stepped up really quickly to sign some things and approve some things that needed to happen very fast. Our deputy prosecuting attorney, Philip, who wrote an amendment very quickly, just continued in a lot. I'm super impressed with Carly Mishko, the new executive director out at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. She's just been really engaged, really on top of things, really supportive of process with the county, very transparent and communicative. So this is all happening really quickly, and also to Sean Frederick in Central Services was really involved, and all of those people came together really quickly in a few days to put all this together. So I have a lot of gratitude for that, and also for the advisory board appointments to the housing task force. So gratitude and hope for people showing up. If you look at that list of people who are going to step into this housing task force to support a new plan for affordability and homeless housing. And the hope part is that I really hope we can create a plan that is more of, a project plan, playbook, marching orders, to-do list, something that we actually refer back to and actually use to say, here's where we want to be in 5 years around affordability and homeless housing, both of those things. It's a tall order to address both of those issues and what we want things to look like in 5 years, but I hope it's an actual tool that we use to get us there, and excited about all these people stepping up to help us.
We will have
write that.
a few more. We extended the period for application for folks with lived experience, experiencing housing instability, and we have a few applications under that, but this is the core.
Yeah, hopefully add to that. So anyway, that's all I have. I mean,
I just have to call out the alliteration number 8. I really enjoyed reading about the piggyback
oh, yes.
purchasing agreement for pathology services, but that's,
Lots of Ps, right?
lots of Ps, but lots of good work here. And I'm happy to move that we approve and adopt the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
I would just add, super excited to see the SR 19 Road and Drive,
Yeah.
bike ped improvements over Chimicum Creek. In the Chimicum Creek area, and also I would be remiss if I did not say how excited I am to see the railroad repair for Upper Hill Road on this
Absolutely.
agenda, because was leaning in big time about 2 months ago into that, and I just feel really grateful, and I know we have more work ahead, but this is a great milestone. And I appreciate our public works team and Monty and Eric for all the work they've done to make this happen. So anyway, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the consent agenda? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, we are gonna move on to our proclamation, and I see that we have some of our public safety colleagues with us in the room. Does someone want to come up and do a little introduction to this proclamation for us?
Well, Matt. Chief, I'm sorry.
Oh, come on, Matt.
We were just here to observe and to thank you, commissioners, but, yeah, I will thank you for recognizing the contributions of our public safety telecommunicators and, for the people listening, I'm sure the three of you are aware, but I'll mention that, something that might go unnoticed or unthought about, the 911 doesn't sleep, so. The currently 10 people that we have in the role of public safety telecommunicator. Work nights, work weekends, work holidays, for the better part of the recent memory, they worked all of those plus a tremendous amount of overtime due to industry-wide staffing shortages and one that particularly hit this agency, Jeffcom, fairly hard. For a while, we were down to 5 people to cover 2 chairs, 24/7. So that's, the longest stretch I heard was 29 days of 12-hour work days in a row, without a day off. So that's what the staff went through the last few years. Like I said, we're at 10 now out of 12, so they're a little.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so they have a little better work-life balance now. It's still like all of public safety is, holidays and weekends don't matter, but they do get their weekends now on their schedule. So it's a dedicated group of people, about half that went through that rough time and half that are new, that have bulked up our staff. All of whom are have learned to do the demanding and sometimes mentally challenging, in addition to physically challenging, sitting for 12 hours, job of answering calls from people at the worst period of their life. It's not a job for everyone, and it's one that definitely deserves some appreciation. I'll also just say, again, thank you for recognizing them. And if you haven't spent some time in the center or in a 911 center, give us a call at Jeffcom and we would happily put a headset on you and have you sit there for a while, and we'll need to do a criminal background check on the 3 of you to make sure that you can be in there.
Already done it on.
You're good. But yeah, we'll have you sit there and see what the job is, at least on a one particular day.
And we don't call 911 to make that appointment.
That's right. I got to tour the Emergency Operations Center, but I haven't done my sitting there for the shift, so I'm looking forward to it.
Anytime.
Yeah.
And Chief, I'm sorry, you came all this, I thought you were.
Do you have anything you want to add, Chief?
Sure, I'll ride Matt's
Thank
coattails.
you, Matt.
Yeah, if you're not aware, I'm the fire chief for East Jefferson Fire, Jefferson County Fire District 1. I'm also one of the board members for Jeffcom. And to kind of echo what Matt highlighted with the staffing shortage, they've made a tremendous amount of effort in the past 2 years with increasing the workforce, improving the work environment. Some huge strides with mental health, mental resilience of the dispatchers has also been taken in the past year, which I'm happily copying in East Jeff. We hired the same contractor. One great idea deserves more of an audience for sure. And I just wanted to point out that, the word first responder is kind of all encapsulating with, meaning law, firefighters, dispatchers, EMS professionals. But really for me, the clarity is when you talk about the sequence of a 911 event, you may have all those responders, first responders as part of it, but really the dispatchers are the first and the last to be involved. So they're there. We may not need law enforcement the whole time, or maybe not at all. We may not need firefighters for part of the incident, but the dispatchers are the one that are consistently from the beginning to the end. And oftentimes dealing with somebody living a tragedy in real time. And I would say, hopefully not too occasionally, but dealing with an inpatient fire chief on the other end of the radio, making quick and energetic demands of the dispatcher. And I just want to express my appreciation to all the dispatchers this week. It's very special to East Jefferson. We're happy to honor all the people at Jeffcom. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Well said. We're not the only one.
Almost took me down.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a proclamation and Greg, would you like to start?
I would love to.
And then we'll go to Heather and come back and do it that way. Just shake things up a little bit.
We'll go from youngest, I guess. A proclamation.
9 months. We're talking about months.
Whereas 911 telecommunicators across the state are available around the clock to answer calls from those in distress, and
Whereas 911 telecommunicators are also radio lifelines for police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel who respond to emergencies. And
whereas 911 telecommunicators are responsible for a wide range of public warnings, including Amber Alerts and notification of earthquakes, tsunamis, hazardous materials releases, and other threats to public safety. And
whereas countless lives have been saved by the prompt, effective, and compassionate responses of 911 telecommunicators, and
whereas the Washington State chapters of the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials, APCO, and National Emergency Number Association, NENA, are composed of members representing telecommunications from every facet of public safety in Washington.
now therefore be it resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 13th to the 19th, 2025 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Jefferson County, and encourages people in this county to join us in this special observance and recognizing the important contributions of this dedicated group. Approved this 14th day of April, 2025.
I'm happy to move that we adopt this proclamation as read.
And I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, wholeheartedly.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. I was just gonna comment that I have not done my visit, so I wanna get on the schedule, but I will not call 911 to make that appointment. But I did do a stint at the phones at DCD, and that felt like a little bit about emergency lifeline for a while there during COVID. The phone was ringing off the hook and I was like, oh my God, I need training for this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it was, I have to imagine there's a lot of specific and unique training that folks get to hold these positions.
They won't actually let you answer the phones at Jefferson.
I know, but maybe witnessing it or whatever I get to experience.
I
So,
highly recommend it.
yeah.
I mean,
Thanks for being here today, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
nice to see you all.
And if I can just throw
Yeah.
something in, I've been on the Jeffcom 911 board with Chief Black and others since 2020. And, you know, it is great that we have a team that is respected from top to bottom now. And I would say it's come a long way since when I first joined. And as Matt said, we had folks that were, you know, doing 12-hour shifts for a month at a time, and that is just not sustainable. That's on top of the trauma that they're, you know, experiencing. Both Chief Black and Matt kind of talked about it, but credit to Matt really for bringing that counseling in, you know, as a matter of course, not, you know, and really, I think that kind of respect for our telecommunicators is part of the reason that we're nearly fully staffed. And I think just top to bottom respect is something that has been really developed at Jeffcom. And I am, you know, I've spent a couple shifts there, not a whole shift, but you know, a couple hours several times there. I highly recommend that you guys both do it because they really are the first responders. And as Chief Black talks about, they're there at the beginning to the end of every call. And we are safer and more secure for their efforts. Bartman, thank you. And all your cohort. I really appreciate your work.
Yeah, please share our gratitude with the whole team out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have about 20, we might be a few minutes late to start our executive session with you, Cliff, because we have our colleagues from
Okay, thanks,
the
Chief.
Jefferson County Marine Resources Committee with us to give us the annual update on the work the MRC does. And because I sit on that committee, I know it's a lot of work. And I really look forward to hearing the overview from you guys. So I don't know, Betsy, are you coming up, or Katie, or who's?
We were all gonna trade off. so
Okay.
We just kind of
Yeah.
passed her in the corner.
Come on up. Yeah. And I'll just say that over the weekend, or maybe the end of last week, I got an email from Betsy Carlson, who's chair of the MRC currently, and asking about the sheriff had reported that they were in the newspaper that they were doing some derelict vessels, what would the word be, surveys of boats out and doing some more patrols about derelict vessels in our marine waters here. And it was exciting to hear from Sheriff Pernsteiner that they got some funding to make more regular patrols of derelict vessels.
Oh, fantastic.
Some of us on the MRC have been kind of leaning in on the derelict vessel front for the last few years, and this feels like a great extension of that work. We're kind of doing it as volunteers by hook or by crook, but we're actually seeing more derelict vessels being removed from our local nearshore and marine waters, so it's great. Anyway, we're just filling time. With my favorite topic.
Good intro, yeah.
Troy, you gonna come up too?
Leave it open.
Okay, okay,
It's here for morals.
okay.
All right, well, thank you for giving us time to tell you about what we've been doing. I'm Betsy Carlson. I'm the chair of the Jefferson County MRC. And with me, we have.
I'm Katie Cole. I'm the coordinator for the MRC.
And I'm Brian DeCaterina. I'm the Environment Conservation Alt and PD resident.
So we're gonna tell you a little bit about the MRC, what we do, and what we've done, what we've accomplished in the past year, and going from there. Okay, so the MRC, the Marine Resources Committee, is something that was created by the Northwest Straits Commission, that is a state agency or commission. And there's 7 MRCs throughout the northern part of Puget Sound, all bordering the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And the reason it was created was based on not turning the waters around like San Juan Island in this area into an aquatic reserve, instead looking for community-based committees that can look directly at economic and ecological problems and projects that may need to be done in their local areas, as well as providing as an advisory committee to the Board of County Commissioners. So that's what we do. And we are the Jefferson County MRC, just works with the waters on the eastern part of Jefferson County. In that side. We have, currently there are 19 members and representing a variety of different interests in East Jefferson County. You can see from this list, we have tribal representation. We have 2 ex officio members, Heidi with the county commissioner and Carol Hasse with the Port of Port Townsend. We have for years had a local city of Port Townsend.
Judy Serber.
Yeah.
Decades on the MRC.
Yes,
Aw,
fabulous
just retired.
contributions. So we really need a new city person to join us because there's input that comes from the city that we most easily get from that person. And then throughout the district, each of the districts have 2 representatives plus an alternate. And each of you have representatives in the MRC. And there's a marine science practitioner, an educator or researcher position that are currently represented with Emily Buckner and John Wagner. Environmental conservation, I'm that, but also Brian. And commercial interests is with Gordon King. And recreational interests, so boaters or whatever you want to do out on the water, Troy, and who's here today, and Roy Clark. And then just this year, we've started with a youth member of that, and Kayla Barenfeld is currently our youth representative. This position was created as part of our DEI efforts to make it a more inclusive and diversified committee. So we've been working on that.
Looks like you got an extra spot there for another youth, is that right?
Yes,
Like Bacon?
yeah, an alternate for that. It's nice to have 2 people in case one can't make it.
Yeah, great.
And they have voting abilities, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, which is, I think really great. It's a really great exercise to learn how a committee board functions. And then our vacant position and our primary position, then part of the goal, I think the age range in our bylaws is technically 18 to 25 for that position.
Perfect.
But part of the goal was to have a junior and a senior and have the junior move into the senior position and help recruit. So hopefully we can.
We'll keep working on finding another youth representative.
Yeah, and then what we do as an advisory, we're an advisory committee and board of county commissioners, so some occasionally issues come from you to our committee that we can ponder and get our expert and experienced members to contribute to thoughts on that. We hold monthly meetings, the first Tuesday of every month. You alternating between hybrid and or in person. They're usually hybrid. Occasionally we just snow days, we might just stay online. We also, a lot of what we do are hands-on in projects. We do a variety of different things, which we're going to tell you about in a minute. Some of you have participated in them and some of you have, seen what we do. And then we work closely with a number of community partners. Katie is a county employee funded through the commission, and we're based at WSU Extension. So there's a bunch of partners right there. We work with Fish and Wildlife, the Jamestown Squall Tribe. In this past year, we've worked with other groups in previous years. Department of Natural Resources, Taylor Shellfish, Hood Canal Oyster Company, City of Port Townsend, the Port of Port Townsend, the State Parks, Puget Sound Restoration Fund, the Strait Ecosystem Recovery Network, and the Marine Science Center, and the Maritime Center, and other organizations. So we're active, we do a lot, we get things done on the ground, and we have a good time. Yeah. And I'm passing on to Katie.
And so we are able to fund this work through grants from the Northwest Straits Commission. So currently we have 2 grants totaling $194,000 for 2024. That's what we have for 2024. And that consists of Washington State funds, EPA funds, and NOAA funds. And our volunteer time, so we estimate that we generated about $78,000 worth of value in the amount of hours that our volunteers put in last year. So it was 2,246 hours, which is, I calculated it down to week. It's a full-time staff person, which is pretty amazing. And lastly, we estimate about $5,000 of community in-kind match services. So we consider that professional services. So if an MRC member donates their time in a professional capacity, say they're out diving on the no anchor zone buoys and checking that. Yeah, exactly. There's a good picture of him coming up. Like checking the anchors in the substrate, making sure that all the equipment is in good condition. No buoys are gonna float away at some point. As well as eelgrass surveys. Brian will help and go out and do eelgrass surveys as part of our permit compliance for our oyster project and the no anchor zone buoy project. In-kind also includes Taylor Shellfish, so they'll donate a boat and fuel and technically a captain, I guess, is in. And they've also donated bags of shell in the past for oyster restoration.
That's great.
And the Board of PT has donated both in the past. So overall, we estimate that in 2024, we had a overall budget of about $277,000 that allowed us to do our work. And in addition to our funding, we have really excellent volunteers that I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. There we go. Okay. Okay. So the MRC and all of our projects and the great work we do in the community only works because we have awesome volunteers on board. I feel really grateful to have found an organization to work with that has all of these wonderful people who are so committed to marine stewardship in our community. So in 2024, we counted 95 volunteers. About 75% of those
That's pretty
hours. Thank you. Yeah, I know. I was trying to think about, like, how am I gonna walk out of that? No. So let's say it this way. So our 95 volunteers contributed 2,246 hours. And of those hours, about 75% of them were done by MRC members and 25% from community volunteers. And they're distributed across a couple different projects and activities. So of those 2,000 hours, about 23% is spent on education and outreach products. So like our What About Festival speaker series, attending festivals, tabling at events.
That was so great. This last year, by the way. That was like one of the best table events.
It was
I
awesome.
really
It
enjoyed
was.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really excellent and we're very excited to be back again this year. We're gonna talk more about it too in a minute, so. Yeah. 12% of our time was spent at trainings and conferences, so a group of us attended a forage fish survey training, spent some ROV trainings. 30% of our time meetings and admin, so going to our monthly meetings, executive meetings. Northwest Straits Commission, our funders, attending their meetings. And then 35% of our time was spent on restoration and protection projects and monitoring projects. So we're going to talk more about those in just a minute.
Participatory science.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
we
gonna
can do this, sure. Yeah, so participatory science monitoring. So this is kind of the subsect of the projects that MRC works on that we've identified that we pull in local folks, citizen scientists, folks that really want to get involved and kind of do boots on the ground help with kind of science monitoring. What we found is a good way to kind of get the community involved, kind of get people to understand why it's important to protect oyster habitat or kelp. And so this is a big part of what we do because I think it connects with folks that don't just sit on the MRC and are working biologists. This is just folks that care about our marine waters in Jefferson County. So the kind of work that kind of falls under this category, we do Nereocystis or bull kelp monitoring out at North Beach, where we have kayak surveys doing spatial monitoring of the floating kelp canopy bed out there. We do that during the growing season, during the summer, gets a lot of folks out on the water and kind of participate. And we've added some pieces to like light and other temperature and things that kind of monitor how the kelp in general, overall spatial, whether it's expanding and contracting in that area. This is a project that's been going on through a lot of MRCs. Jefferson County is not the only one who's been doing it. I think this has been going on for 9 years, is that right?
9 years here.
Yeah, 9 years here, but so the data we collect gets uploaded to Sound IQ, it gets compared with other MRCs. They started implementing other data analysis strategies with drones and aerial imaging that we've been kind of playing with. But all this is kind of being used in collective with other data that's being collected with DNR to kind of understand the general overall health and how floating kelp canopies are, how they're doing in certain areas of Puget Sound. So we're kind of leading that charge here in Jefferson County out of North Beach. And so it's
How's it
really
going in North Beach? I mean,
overall, because there's a lot of there's a lot of nutrients that are coming in and out, and there's a lot of exchange. Overall, the way DNR's kind of put it is that it's pretty stable in comparison to some of the stuff down in South Sound. So yeah, overall, I think it's a dynamic.
It's still, it is really dynamic, right?
Yeah, it's very
changes so
dynamic. It
much every
changes,
year.
and I think that's what's so interesting is the floating kelp. You can look at it from aerial imaging and be able to see back almost to the 70s, how it's been doing. So anyway, without being too, this is exactly how it is. It's a very dynamic system, but it is, I think, a really cool project that a lot of people are gonna get involved in. I'm gonna keep moving here because we got a lot to talk about. Yeah, we also do the forage fish surveys. The forage fish surveys we do is a presence absence kind of survey for multiple WDFW index sites. We have one in Daybah Bay, one at the Quilcene Marina. Those are the two we do.
Yeah, those are our 2 active ones.
Yeah, those are 2 active ones, but these are just to provide additional data to DFW to determine whether or not there's active spawning happening on some of our beaches. And so it kind of helps participate with citizens monitoring whether or not this is happening. So that's.
Can I make one push there? I've been pushing this for a couple of years, and I think it's sad. I don't think Jody's on MRC anymore, right?
No.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I just feel like the Ducker Bush, there's opportunity there for forage fish monitoring, and I'd go down and do it. I love doing the centrifuge and everything, but it seems like there's big work going into the highway, there's big for the delta there, there's big work going into the NPR, and there's so much. It'd be great to have a baseline as these big projects start.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can actually see they're actually in the center right photo there. They're winnowing the forage fish sand, and the eggs that they're trying to target are surf smelt and sand lance. just so people understand what they're looking for on the beaches.
That baseline is a really important idea though, because, yeah, because we're hearing different opinions about the impacts of those projects, and so it would be good to have some data on that.
Yeah, it's a
Second, I would second that.
WDFW project in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Iron Core.
And I know there was a conversation about that last year, but I don't remember any of the details on it, so I'll follow up.
Mhm.
But if we have a volunteer to go out there and help make collect the
There you go.
samples.
I will, it's a bit of a drive, but I would go do it. 'Cause I think it's important.
That sounds amazing.
Well, look at
All right, let it know that Greg signed up for that.
Yeah.
And
As long as I get to do the spinning as well, I like to do the fun parts too.
And lastly, for participatory science, the MRC has started monitoring for storm surge events and established 2 index sites along the Port Townsend waterfront. So far, we've conducted 4 surveys, and this data has been uploaded to the Sound IQ database. So those are some.
Which is the Northwest Ridge Commission database, and it's monitored or managed out of the city of Bellingham.
Okay.
Education and outreach.
Oh, there. So I'll talk about our education and outreach program for a little bit. So last year we made 1,823 direct contacts. So that's anytime the MRC interacts one-on-one with a member of the public, either at a tabling booth or a workshop or a lecture. And last year we put on 4 educational workshops. So the first is searching for seaweed. And you can see Nam Sue up in the corner there, who's a former MRC member, holding up some seaweed for identification. And that is where we take folks out on the beach and we do seaweed identification, but we also talk about safely and sustainably harvesting shellfish. So we talk about the DOH shellfish safety map a lot, if you're familiar with that. And then we also talk about cool ways to eat seaweed and incorporate it in your diet. And so Nam is really great with that. Loves to eat seaweed. At the end of the class, we send out a whole recipe booklet on seaweed for participants. So it's a lot of fun. And this year we had about 10 people on the wait list. It's really popular. So we're excited to get to offer it. Digging for dinner is similar. It's both searching for seaweed and digging for dinner are partnership workshops with WDFW. So Nan was with WDFW, and then digging for dinner, we have a woman named Camille now, and she and a couple of WDFW staff give a great presentation out on the beach for participants. And then we spend the next couple hours with WDFW staff and MRC members practicing digging up clams and shucking oysters and talking about best methods for doing that. It's fun, it's muddy, it's happening in about a month, you should come, it'll be good. And we do that down at the Quilstein WDFW Tidelands, but Crabbing 101 is a great workshop. So that takes place at the WSU classroom down in Fort Hadlock. And in addition to talking about, you know, how to get your license and how to measure a crab and best place to put your pot, we also talk about tribal treaty rights. We talk about shellfish, not shellfish, fishery management. And we talk about how to properly set your crab pot to make sure that it doesn't become lost. So trying to really hit home, avoiding any additional derelict crab pots out in the area. And then we discussed why that's a burden on the ecosystem when that happens. And so that last year was my first year attending that, but it got a lot of really good feedback and questions in the room, so.
On the crabbing front, another thing I love that we do is we make little packets of educational materials and take them to all the places that sell crab licenses. But everyone gets a measure for the crabs. I mean, I just think it's great. It's just like.
It's a great pack.
It's a really good packet of information, and you could almost show up and get that packet of information and be a solid crabber, but crabbing 101 is like your PhD level.
Yeah, and Troy presents it, Crabbing 101 too. He demonstrates the crab pot and how to set it up, and yeah,
it's great.
Really one of our speakers. Lastly, we do some shoreline landowner outreach. So that's in partnership with the Northwest Straits Foundation. And so a couple of our MRC members will go out with the foundation staff as well as local biologists sometimes to homeowners' properties to discuss their shoreline with them. So they'll talk about everything from natural vegetation to managing drainage and erosion. to things like hard and soft armoring and bulkheads.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, potential alternatives to those things if they're interested. So it's a really great community resource and it's perpetuated by the landowners expressing interest in having someone come out, which is a really great way to introduce that conversation to new neighborhoods, communities. Sometimes those things feel legit, so. So those were the workshops we did last year. We also attended 2 community events. We attended Shrimp Fest, formerly Fjord Fest. Where?
In the shrimp costume, is that?
I don't, it looks, no, I don't think that's me.
Okay.
It's not you.
No.
In the shrimp.
I think it was a green shirt that day, but yeah, when we debate, we're like, did I put one in? Yeah. So yeah, that's us at Shrimp Fest and he has a great little shrimp flow about it. And then we were also at Wooden Boat Festival. So Wooden Boat Festival this year, we had this tabling booth and this fun activity, but we also piloted a new stage.
So this was this marine science and stewardship stage was put together. We organized it. We figured out who would speak there and the Maritime Center, Barb Trailer in particular, was very supportive of this idea and helped us out making it happen. We had about 1,034 people. We took count of every time somebody showed up to listen. 18 different presentations, 25 presenters, because some presentations had more than one presenter. And the topics were all over the place, but they were all based on topics that made sense for the MRC to be presenting on, things that we are concerned about, as well as things we think the general, visitation of the Wooden Boat Festival might be interested in, like how to identify marine mammals from the boat, or what are plankton, and we had State Representative Troy Wood from DNR come and talk about derelict vessels, because wooden boats, you don't want them to become derelict vessels, but what happens if you see them? So we look at stewardship topics as well as just general marine science things, and we're doing it again this year.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah, thank you.
She worked a lot on this event. Yeah.
This is
Well, I think it belongs there,
Yeah.
so doing what we can. And then every morning we have the VBOCs for this coming year, but we do a plankton tow and set out microscopes, and people can look at what's in the water right now. So some of it's hands-on, some of it is just educational. Some of it is policy, some of it is, what you can do. And it's we talked about deep sea minerals. We talked about the Point Hudson Jetty project and so a variety of other educational things.
You think you see the docks packed at the Wooden Boat Festival, people looking at wooden boats, you should see the plankton. That was the most packed I'd seen a dock at the Wooden Boat Festival.
Yeah, great. So it's a good partnership.
Read this one? Yeah. Man, I get to talk about all the fun stuff that we do. So similar to the participatory science stuff, we also engage in restoration and protection work. So some of the projects that we work on, if you guys have been on our PT waterfront, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, the spar buoys that demarcate the eelgrass and shellfish buoys that are along the PT waterfront, or Hadlock and in Mystery Bay, that are demarcating sensitive habitat for shellfish and eelgrass. We've been maintaining these buoys far longer than I've been on the MRC, which is 7 years. I can't tell you how many years this is, but I think in the MRC's eyes, they've been recognized as a really successful project over the years and have really kept boaters from anchoring in the eelgrass. And so other MRCs are looking to implement those. So we tend to do some monitoring during Wooden Boat just to see how effective it is. I think later on we'll look at a slide that shows kind of where the boats are and where the buoys are, and just to show how people actually see them. And this is all a variant of a completely voluntary project. So it's based on people just seeing them and making their own decision not to anchor in it. We're not out there policing people.
Thank you for taking care of the buoys, Troy.
Yeah, right.
See you back there.
Our crew is probably 4 people and you're looking at half of them right now. Yeah, I consider that a really fun project. Another work that we're doing that I think is also a major success, and I think a lot of this is thanks to Neil Harrington, who's on our MRC, is our Olympia Oyster Restoration Project that's happening in Discovery Bay. This has been happening for a lot of years, but
Neil and Gordon.
Neil and Gordon, you're right. There's a lot of people that have been getting involved, but I consider this a project that doesn't tend to take a lot of money. It just takes a little bit of time, and we're actually seeing huge amounts of restoration for our native oyster of Washington returning to Discovery Bay.
Great. It continues to trend upward.
It does. Yeah, we're gonna get into that a little deeper here in a minute, but yeah, this project is where we're spreading shell in Discovery Bay to create habitat for natural set to settle on. So yeah, that's the work that we've been doing. And then lastly, we've been doing the rain gardens. Our MRC has established 19 rain gardens in Jefferson County. These are designed to capture and absorb stormwater runoff, preventing it from overwhelming our drainage systems in Port Townsend, Jefferson County. In 2024, we had 6 working parties where we cleaned up the rain garden and kind of got them back in working order. So
Yeah, the city now picks up the green waste local. So that's been a big help.
That's great.
Yeah, our project lead Jeanette reached out to them. We're on board, which is phenomenal. Yeah. Saves us a dump fee. So
Yeah, it's good.
And the derelict crap pot removal project is on hold for this year. But if you have used ROVs and youth and gone out and picked up derelict crap pots, we try and teach people how to not get them derelict,
but yeah, like she said, it's also engaging in our the high school robotics team was using a cool and built ROVs to kind of locate. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I grew up in Virginia. I didn't have access to that kind of thing when I was here. So I think it's a very cool project just to engage in youth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, so yeah, this is what I was alluding to earlier with the eelgrass, no anchor zone protection buoy that are, this is, if you look at the image that's on the right with the yellow dots and the red dots. This image was an aerial image that was taken during Wooden Boat. The red buoying where all of the red spar buoys that are demarcating kind of the outer bed boundary of where the eelgrass is present. It's kind of in that intertidal zone where everyone might want to anchor their boat. So they kind of follow this contour line, but we've put these out and gotten the permitting from DNR. But as you can see, the yellow dots being the boats that were recorded.
It works.
Yeah, it works. It does. People.
It's voluntary.
Yeah, it's completely voluntary, but people see these and know kind of where to safely anchor their boat without putting it into an eelgrass bed.
You understand the ecosystem of boaters.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think that's also the other thing. If you look at the left-hand side, you know, it's this educational placard that is a few different places I've seen around town, but it kind of explains why eelgrass is important. You know, it's this nursery habitat for forage fish and crabs. And it's so sensitive. It's a vascular plant that, you know, most of it disappeared in the 80s when we didn't realize how important it was. And then we started seeing the actual trickle up from, you know, salmon decline and crab decline just because of this one species. So it is federally listed as endangered, but yeah, projects like this, I think other MRCs have looked at as kind of a good way to kind of help protect something without a whole lot of policing. So, and also to still participate in having boats come to the PD waterfront and be there. So,
yeah. And aspirationally, you know, making positive behavior modification is always like the most rewarding way, better than like, hey, you shouldn't anchor here, you know, and policing people is a lot harder to do with a volunteer corps.
And then, yeah, I'll quickly touch on the Olympia oyster. I know we're kind of running a little bit behind here. But so the Olympia oyster project, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we've been engaged in spreading shell throughout Discovery Bay and Lagoon Point, and then we have another area that's kind of under the power lines in the middle of Discovery Bay there. This year, yeah, we delivered, I think, was it 15,000 bags of shell. But if that wasn't enough, we also did another citizen science event where we did Olympia oyster population count, where we got 12 volunteers to go out and actually count the Olympia oysters that have settled on the Pacific oyster shell. And so 12 volunteers, 46 transects, roughly they calculated that there was about 111,500 Olympia oysters that have settled on the shell population. So it's
You just put the shell out.
it's
The year before.
yeah, and so this is all on shell that had been out there prior. So it's you know, as simple as putting habitat for these Olympia oysters to just kind of naturally settle because they just don't have habitat. It's mostly mud out there, so they just need something to stick to. And so this is a restoration that we see that, like I said, it doesn't take a lot of money. It's just taking our energy to be out there. So
How do they know? How do they know that you
they're
put
out
it
there.
out
They just need
there?
something to stick to.
Crazy.
I love that project. I think it's really good.
You don't have to put Olympia Colch out there.
No,
Any
they're just-
oyster
they're just-
shell,
they're just
they're
floating in
already
Pacific
floating.
oyster
The
shells.
Pacific oyster
Yeah,
shell.
and so that's why, yeah, we get shell and then we spread it out in the area, and that is just enough for them to stick to it, and they stick to it and start growing.
And just to clarify, I gave you the wrong number of boards. It was 1,500 bags.
1,500.
1,500.
Still a lot of them.
Still a ton.
Still took us an entire
Yeah.
day to spread them.
Yeah.
And then this last slide is just comparing 2023 to 2024. I'm not gonna go into the hard metrics of it. It's basically just showing that the natural recruitment of Olympia oysters is happening in Discovery Bay. It's working.
Yeah.
And we're all really excited about it. It's great.
This picture here, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but the tiny shells, this is the Pacific oyster shell and the tiny shells on it are Olympia oysters.
Oh, I see,
primarily.
okay.
Yeah, we were out there last week and there was even one Olympia oyster, Pacific oyster shell that we had put out that was about this big. And I think I counted 18 Olympia oysters that were growing on that one shell. So it's kind of amazing to see. So.
All right, I'll skim through this really quick. So we're continuing, with all of the projects we've mentioned, ROV derelict crab pots. We're gonna be working in Killiston Harbor here, late May, early June. And our DEI subcommittee continues to work with funding support from Straight ERN. And working with, Usawa, a DEI contractor. And let's see, going forward, we're gonna continue looking at potential Olympia oyster restoration possibilities in Killiston Harbor. So that's something that the MRC and WJW and PSRF have looked at over the past few years. Trying to decide on a site, talking to homeowners. So they're interested in continuing that work this year. We need volunteers to adopt rain gardens. If anyone out there in the ether would like to adopt a rain garden, just give me a call. Last fall, around December, we started a derelict vessel removal subcommittee, which has been really great. And we had a meeting and tossed around some ideas on what we could do to help the efforts in Jefferson County. And then we're gonna expand our science stage at Wind Boat Festival to now be a science alley. And so the goal is to create a more comprehensive environment for the public, and steer them all into the tent.
And we're getting a bigger tent.
We're getting a bigger tent.
nice.
We got, doubled the size of the tent. So,
Wow.
yes.
Excellent.
We're also hoping to hire a part-time staff support person, so that's a new position. So currently working with HR to get that ball rolling. And then our funding situation for the next this year and the next 2 years, as far as we know, is stable, and we expect it to stay about the same as prior years.
And we will ask you all, how can we better serve the Board of County Commissioners with what we do? And we look, reach out to us if you need to. We're here for you, and we're gonna keep doing our projects and public education and the things we do, so.
Yeah. And lastly, we've gotten a few really lovely quotes from the public who have interacted with us over the past year, so I'll just read this one over here, but. So this woman, Christy Dahlia Holmes, she attended our Searching for Seaweed event 2 weeks ago and sent me this email like 3 days ago. So she says, "Hi, I just got on your email list after taking the fantastic seaweed foraging workshop last week. I'm over the moon to learn clamming next. She's gonna come to the digging for dinner. Already registered. I just want to reach out to thank you for what you do. At this time of great change, having my county educate me about gathering food safely and legally in the wild is even more meaningful. Thank you so much." So,
Lovely.
yeah, very grateful for that. Get to interact with the public and provide service to them. Whoops. There we go. And that's us and Heidi over in the corner at our conference last year.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to kill me to get MRC.
But any of us can volunteer. We can
Yeah.
even volunteer, multiple of us, because we're not doing the county's work in the way that we
Right.
form a quorum. We
Right.
can spread oyster shell together.
Oh, yeah. I highly,
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
highly
it's great.
recommend
I
it.
do-
So fun.
The classes are great too. They have little classes.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much for having
Yeah,
us.
great
Yeah.
work. Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I have to put back in the chair role. We are a little bit past time to move into executive session. We will be going into executive session with our Human Resources Director and Human Resources Analyst.
I think Kaufman representative as well.
And our Prathman representative, who's in the room with us, to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment. No discussion of salaries, wages, or other conditions of employment to be generally applied within the county, and no final action on the hiring, setting salary of an individual employee or class of employees, or discharging or disciplining an employee. Exemption is outlined in the Open Public Meetings Act, RCW 42.30.110 parentheses 1 parentheses G. We're going into executive session now at 10:45, and we will be coming out at 12. And if we need to extend, then we may extend a little bit, because we're 15 minutes late. I think our colleagues, Commissioner Brotherton and Administrator Macaulay, will be leaving us at this time.
All right.
Okay. Good afternoon. We've just slid into the afternoon and we are coming out of executive session. And we will not be taking action, but we did discuss 19 applicants from 5 states for the county administrator position. And we have authorized our Prothman and HR team.
You will be doing that, you're authorizing that?
To talk to up to 5 of those candidates as part of our process. For the hiring of the Jefferson County Administrator position. And we will not be extending, and we will be.
Is that in a way action? Do you want to just make that more official?
No, this is just a reporting out. We'll take action when we get into our process.
Okay.
Just giving people some information.
Okay.
And I'm gonna recess us until 1:30. Oh, sorry, night. Calling us back into order, 1:30 PM on Monday, April 14th, and we are going immediately into an executive session with our county administrator, chief civil deputy prosecuting attorney, and civil deputy prosecuting attorney regarding actual litigation. Exemptions is outlined in the Open Public Meetings Act, RCW 42.30.110 parentheses 1 parentheses I. We're going in at 1:30 and we will be back at 1:40. Okay.
Is it picking up? Yep, it is.
What do we,
Okay. So we are coming out of executive session and not taking action. And we will be going into another executive session with the county administrator, chief civil deputy prosecuting attorney, civil deputy prosecuting attorney, Department of Community Development Director regarding potential litigation exemption as outlined in the Open Public Meetings Act, RCW 42.30.110 parentheses 1 parentheses I. We will be going in at 1:51 and coming out at 2:35.